When a 45-year-old woman first told me, "I don't know if I'm still worth anything," it felt like a punch to the gut, not because it was true, but because in that moment I understood something deeply unsettling about our culture, what it does to mature women. It teaches them to believe that their worth has an expiration date, that after a certain age, they should be content with emotional crumbs and grateful for any attention they receive. What I'm about to share with you contradicts everything you've been told about love after 40. For over 20 years, I've accompanied women on their journeys of emotional transformation, and I've witnessed something that, in its simplicity, I would almost call revolutionary. The women who find the best men, experience the most stable relationships, and the deepest love are not the ones fighting their age or trying to compete with younger women. They are the ones who've discovered a secret most completely overlooked. This secret has nothing to do with seduction techniques, cosmetic surgery, or playing a role. It's about something much deeper. What I've come to recognize is the difference between a life spent seeking love and a life lived from a place of inner abundance. And once you understand that difference, everything changes. Last year, Harmony published a study that deeply moved me. A full 68% of women over 40 believe they have little chance of finding a high-quality partner. But what struck me most wasn't the statistic itself, it was realizing how this belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because when a woman believes she is less worthy, she begins to act accordingly. And that very energy of lack is what drives away the kind of men who truly have something to offer. I want to take you into an experience that fundamentally changed my understanding of this topic. A few years ago, I worked with two women who came to me with very similar stories. Both recently divorced, both intelligent, professionally successful, and both worried they might never find love again. One was 43, the other 49. On paper, their situations looked almost identical, but what happened next changed my view on relationships forever. The first woman, let's call her Carmen, came to every session with a new disappointment. Men would ask her out but never wanted anything serious. They would disappear after a few weeks, send mixed signals. She became an expert at analyzing messages and reading between the lines of every conversation. Her entire energy was focused on figuring out what the man was thinking, what she might have done wrong, and how she should adapt to appear more attractive. The second woman, Anna, had a completely different presence. Men didn't just call her, they pursued her. Mature, serious men who clearly showed from the start that they wanted to get to know her on a deeper level, not just for a fling. When I asked her what she thought made the difference, she gave me an answer I reflected on for months. "I'm not looking for someone to choose me," she said. "I choose who I want to share my life with." That subtle yet powerful difference is what I call the inner compass of conscious love. It's not about techniques or strategies, but something more fundamental, her relationship with herself. Anna had developed what we in psychology call emotional self-regulation, applied to love. She could distinguish emotional neediness from genuine love, the urge for validation from the sincere desire for connection. And this led me to a realization that has completely transformed my work with mature women. There's a massive difference between standards and demands. Demands come from the ego, from what looks good on the outside. Standards come from the soul, from what we truly need to feel respected, valued, and in integrity with ourselves. And this difference, small as it may seem, separates women who attract healthy relationships from those who repeatedly fall into toxic patterns. Now, I have to share something fascinating, something that has changed the lives of many of my clients. How the mind of a mature man really works. Because this understanding changed everything. Men who have lived enough, who've been in serious relationships and learned from their mistakes, develop something like a radar for authenticity. Their brains, after years of experience, become incredibly attuned to whether a woman is being genuine or simply playing a role to please. When a woman acts out of subtle desperation from that quiet fear of ending up alone, she unconsciously sends out signals. Her energy changes. She becomes more impatient, more willing to accept things that aren't good for her. Even if she thinks this makes her more attractive or adaptable, she gives off insecurity, and that's exactly what repels men who are truly worth having. Mature men who are ready for a real relationship are not looking for a woman who adapts like a chameleon. They are looking for someone with whom they can be authentic. And to do that, they need to feel that the other person is real too. They want to meet the true woman, not a version created to impress. And that brings me directly to an observation I've made about the women who actually manage to build deep and stable relationships after the age of 40. They've all developed 5 key qualities that I consider fundamental, 5 ways of connecting that clearly set them apart. These are not techniques from self-help books. They are wisdom, born from experience, mistakes, and inner growth. The first quality I call magnetic presence, without the instinct to chase. These women have mastered the art of being emotionally present when they're with a partner, while remaining fully grounded in their own lives when they're not. They're not constantly wondering what he's doing. They don't check their phones every 5 minutes. They don't invent dramas in their heads if he doesn't reply immediately. Their energy stays with themselves, with their projects, passions, friendships. And paradoxically, it is precisely this fulfilled, independent energy that most attracts mature men. Because a man who is looking for a life partner doesn't want to become the center of someone's obsessive world. He wants to be invited into an already rich, vibrant life. The second quality is their transformed relationship with time. These women have deeply internalized that their time is not just time, it is life energy. And when someone doesn't respect that energy, they don't feel obliged to justify themselves or keep giving endless second chances. I remember a patient who told me how her perspective had fundamentally changed. In the past, she said, when a man cancelled plans at the last minute or made vague excuses for why we couldn't meet, I stayed. I tried to be understanding, thinking maybe I was being too demanding. Today I know my time is the most precious gift I can offer, and I give it only to someone who truly values it. That's neither arrogance nor stubbornness, it's mature awareness. Because when you truly matter to someone, they organize their life to make your presence possible. They plan, think ahead, make an effort. And when that doesn't happen, these women no longer waste their energy trying to educate him. But perhaps the most powerful trait, the one that has the greatest impact on the quality of their relationships, is what I call an emotional immune system against rescue projects. These women have developed an almost superhuman ability to recognize when a man is emotionally unavailable, when he's carrying unresolved trauma, when he's looking for a free therapist, not a partner. Here lies the true revolution. Their nervous systems no longer react romantically to such men. They no longer feel that adrenaline-charged "I can save him." They no longer interpret his pain as depth. They no longer mistake his emotional neediness for love. They've learned something only experience can teach. You cannot love someone into wholeness. You can only love from your own wholeness. This doesn't mean they seek perfect men without a past. It means they seek men who are doing the work, who are aware of their patterns, and who take responsibility for their emotional growth. The difference is subtle but crucial between someone who is consciously on a healing journey and someone waiting for someone else to fix him. The fourth trait fascinates me especially because it completely contradicts what we've been taught about attraction and romance. These women have developed something I call a long-term relationship perspective. They don't fall in love with potential but with reality. They're not swayed by sweet words or occasional grand gestures. They observe everyday behavior patterns. When a man says family is important to him, they watch how he treats his own family. When he says he's looking for a serious relationship, they pay attention to whether his actions actually reflect that, or whether he's just saying what he thinks a woman wants to hear. They've learned that a person's true values aren't found in what they say, but in their daily choices, how they handle stress, how they resolve conflict, how they behave when no one is watching. This ability to observe patiently protects them from one of the most common relationship mistakes, falling in love with an idealized version of someone they've created in their own mind rather than the real person. And paradoxically, It is this clarity that makes them even more attractive, because mature men feel safe to be themselves around such women. They know they won't be judged for failing to live up to some unrealistic fantasy. Which brings us to the fifth trait, the one I consider the most refined of all, their deep understanding of mature emotional reciprocity. These women have moved beyond the idea that love is measured by how much you're willing to give. They've come to understand that healthy love is measured by how balanced the energetic exchange is between two people. I'm not talking about keeping strict score of who did what for whom. I'm talking about something far more subtle. The ability to sense whether they're in a relationship where both people genuinely care about each other's well-being, where both feel seen, appreciated, and cared for, where there's a natural flow of giving and receiving that doesn't require constant negotiation. One of my patients once put it brilliantly. I used to think love meant giving until it hurt. Today, I understand that true love is when giving feels natural and so does receiving, and neither side demands superhuman effort or self-sacrifice. This gives these women a very refined sensitivity that allows them to detect imbalanced relationships before they become toxic. They can sense when they're giving more emotional energy than they're receiving, when they're being more attentive to their partner than he is to them, when they're investing more in the relationship than their partner is. It's important for you to understand these 5 traits didn't develop overnight. They are the result of what I call the true superpower of female maturity, the ability to learn from experience without becoming cynical, to protect the heart without closing it, to develop discernment without losing the ability to be genuinely amazed. Every failed relationship, every disappointment, every moment they felt unappreciated didn't destroy them. It shaped them. It taught them to recognize patterns, to trust their intuition, to distinguish real love from emotional dependency, authentic passion from the chaos we often confuse with intensity. And that brings me to something I want you to understand deeply. These women are not special because they were born with some unique gift. They are special because they chose to turn their wounds into wisdom, their mistakes into discernment, their pain into personal strength. They chose to let their experiences help them make better decisions, not to give up. There's a 2018 study from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology that confirms something I've observed for years in my practice. Women with high self-confidence and emotional independence were perceived, regardless of age, as significantly more attractive for long-term relationships. But what fascinated me most about this study wasn't just the results, it was the insight into why that's the case. When a woman develops the qualities we've talked about, her entire energy changes. She's no longer in proving mode, no longer trying to convince someone that she's worthy of love. Instead, she shifts into evaluation mode. She assesses whether the love being offered actually enriches her life. And this energetic shift is immediately noticeable. Mature men, especially those who've been in relationships where they felt they constantly had to be someone they were not, or had to emotionally rescue their partner, experience this new energy as a true relief. Finally, they meet a woman who doesn't need to be saved, a woman who's not trying to complete herself through a man, a woman who already leads a rich, fulfilling life and is now simply evaluating whether he can add value to it. This brings me to something fundamental I've learned after many years of working with mature women. They've developed what I call an advanced emotional radar. With almost surgical precision, they can sense whether a man is truly emotionally available or merely physically present. They clearly distinguish between a man looking for a pleasant companion and one who truly wants a life partner, between someone who wants to continue life unchanged and someone who's ready to build something new together. This ability to distinguish doesn't come from books or seminars. It comes from life itself. Through experience, through consciously feeling the difference between a relationship that nourishes and one that drains. They've learned to recognize the difference between the thrill that arises from uncertainty and the calm that stems from emotional safety. And the most beautiful part is, these women didn't gain their clarity by becoming cold or calculating, quite the opposite. They became more authentic, more capable of genuine closeness, more willing to show vulnerability to the right person. Because when you know you can trust your own judgment, you can fully open yourself to someone who's truly worthy. Now, I want to talk about something rarely mentioned when it comes to emotional maturity in love. These women have learned to distinguish between two types of intensity, the kind that arises from drama and insecurity, and the kind that comes from authentic, deep connection. In youth, we often confuse fear with passion, chaos with depth, emotional roller coasters with true love. But maturity teaches us that the most powerful kind of intensity, the one that truly transforms and sustains, arises from the feeling of being completely seen, appreciated, and accepted for who you are. Not for a role, not for a mask, but for your true self. One of my patients once put it in a way I'll never forget. I used to seek relationships that made me feel alive through adrenaline. Today I seek the ones that make me feel alive through peace. And that peace is not boredom, it's a deep sense of inner safety, the knowing that you can be fully yourself without fearing rejection. This insight leads them to what I consider the holy grail of mature relationships: compatibility in growth. They're not looking for a man who is at exactly the same point in life, but one who is heading in the same direction. Someone who is equally willing to keep evolving. Someone who shares the same curiosity to become a better version of himself. They understand that in a mature relationship, both partners will change over time. The question isn't if they'll change, but in what direction. Will they support each other in that growth? Will they celebrate each other's evolution or try to hold each other back? They're looking for a partner who doesn't see personal growth as a threat to relationship stability, but as an opportunity to deepen the connection, to make it more honest, more genuine. And here comes what I see as the true revolution. These women have stopped searching for someone to complete them and started looking for someone with whom they can share their wholeness. They've recognized that personal fulfillment is not selfish. It's the most generous gift one can bring to a relationship. Because the truth about love in later life, the truth hardly anyone tells you, is this: every year you've lived, every experience you've had, every tear you've cried, and every moment you've picked yourself back up has not made you less desirable on the love market, but more selective. And this selectiveness, when it comes from true self-love and not from fear of being abandoned, becomes an irresistible magnetism. Emotionally mature men, who have learned from their own experiences and developed their own emotional depth, are not looking for projects to fix, nor personalities to shape. They're looking for a woman who knows who she is, a woman who knows exactly what she wants, a woman who can offer closeness not from a place of lack, but from a place of inner abundance. They're not looking for someone to fill their emotional gaps. They're looking for someone with whom they can create something deeper and richer than either could alone. And for that, they need a woman who already has a life worth living, not someone who's waiting for him to become her purpose. And here, I want to be brutally honest with you. This is something I believe is fundamental. Developing these traits, living by these standards, choosing from this place of inner clarity, is not a strategy for finding a partner. It's not a formula for getting love. It's something far deeper and more valuable. It is a path to inner coherence, a path to true peace with yourself, a path to looking in the mirror and genuinely respecting the woman you see. Does that mean you'll find the love of your life tomorrow? I don't know, and it would be irresponsible of me to promise that. But I can promise you something else. You will find something even more precious than a relationship, a deep inner peace that comes from knowing you don't need anyone to feel whole. And from that place of peace, every love that enters your life will be a love that enriches, not one that drains. A love that celebrates who you are, not one that tries to change you. A love that adds joy to a life that's already full, not one that rescues you from a life that feels empty. A love that inspires you to be the best version of yourself, not one that requires you to shrink so he can feel bigger. My invitation to you is not to begin this path by asking, When will I find that special someone? My invitation is to begin with a much more powerful question. Am I respecting myself in the way I allow others to treat me? Am I living in alignment with my values, or am I betraying them out of fear of being alone? Am I choosing from self-love or from panic about being left behind? Because at the end of the day, the most important relationship, the one that defines all others, is the relationship you have with yourself. If that relationship is strong, if there's mutual respect between you and your soul, if you trust your inner voice and honor your emotional needs, then that personal integrity becomes a light that naturally attracts the kind of relationship you truly deserve, conscious and mature. You are a woman who has lived, who has experienced, made mistakes, learned, grown. You've developed emotional wisdom, built inner strength, discovered what nourishes you and what depletes you. Everything you've gained over the years is not a burden you need to overcome. It is your superpower, and it deserves to be celebrated. Because in a world full of superficial relationships and empty connections, you possess something that can't be bought, faked, or learned from books. You have the ability to love from depth, from authenticity, from wholeness. And that, exactly that, is what a mature man is truly seeking.